Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming. As Paul Nathanson, those of you here last year recall, at last year's conference told us, we are living in interesting and very dangerous times. Programs that we've paid into throughout our working lives, programs we count on to keep us healthy and independent, Medicare and Social Security are under all-out attack by prophets of doom, and I won't put any other label on that. And it's become so politicized that to even say good things about Social Security and Medicare is to be making a big sort of partisan political statement. Now, we're nonpartisan for sure, and our mission is to promote and ensure aging and community for seniors. So in that role, we have something to say about that, and we have a lot to say as to why we're giving this award. But the prophets of doom have told us during the debate over the debt, and continue to say that everything should be on the table. So in these dangerous times, we need leaders who will speak the truth about Social Security, that it is a solemn promise to current and future generations that can remain solvent indefinitely with a few very minor tweaks. Of all the different problems we face, ensuring Social Security will be there far, far in the future is really an absolutely easy fix. Rhode Islanders, we are very fortunate to have such a leader. During the debate over the debt, when frankly even I think the president was wavering a bit, he spoke up loud, clear, consistently saying Social Security and Medicare must be off the table. They have their own funding, people have paid into them, and we will address that at another point. And I don't know if most Rhode Islanders are aware, as he has become a national leader and voice, not only for Social Security and Medicare, on aging issues. He was a founding member of the Senate's Defend Social Security caucus. He has recognized that Social Security's formula understates and does not take into account the true cost of living for seniors. And that's something that, and he has sponsored legislation to address that. Now, some of that has not yet passed. However, I mean, that's a topic we're going to be talking about today. He has championed that. He has proposed some solutions for the fact that for those living almost entirely on Social Security, it's not adequate. As a member of the U.S. Senate Special Committee on Aging, he has become that national voice and leader within the Senate. And I think, which is rare for someone who is relatively new to the Senate, where seniority and an old boys club is just the natural progression of things to become in leadership. His expertise was recognized to the extent that during the work on healthcare reform, he was given a special addition to the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee, which Senator Reid was already on, to work on healthcare reform. And that's almost never done, to have two senators from the same state on a committee, but it was because of his expertise. The biggest mistake I think as advocates we make is frequently, in fact most of the time, we fail to thank people when they've done great things, when they've done what we've asked. Is anybody, you see the ads, call Senator Whitehouse, call this one, call that one. I'm waiting for the first ad that says, Senator Whitehouse did right. We want you to call Senator Whitehouse and thank him. And frankly, as a community organizer and so forth, I've made that error. And regardless, you've got to recognize when people have done the right thing. We need to recognize it. We need to recognize it more often. I'll talk a little bit more about that at lunch when I'm going to talk about take your local state legislator out for breakfast, but I'll get to that. So, without further ado, I would like to read the inscription on our award. And we don't give, those of you who've been, this is our 4th conference, we don't give out a lot of awards. Some people do. We believe when we give an award, it's very well deserved and hard earned. So today, the Senior Agenda Coalition presents U.S. Senator Selden Whitehouse in deep appreciation for your strong leadership of efforts to keep the solemn promise of Social Security for current and future generations of our nation's elders. Please welcome and please express your appreciation to Senator Sheldon Whitehouse.
Thank you so much. First of all, let me welcome your principal speaker, Ramsey Alwyn, here from the National Council on Aging. Second, let me thank Bill and the Senior Agenda Coalition for its advocacy on behalf of seniors. And third, let me thank each of you and each of the organizations that you are here representing for the advocacy that you and your organizations bring into this battle. And indeed, a battle it is. As Representative Donna Walsh knows, that's why she's here. As your Lieutenant Governor, Elizabeth Roberts, knows, that's why she was here. This is an important battle. In many respects, it's a battle for the heart and soul of our country, and to define what kind of people we are as Americans. In my view, the America that I know stands on 3 pillars of economic freedom and fairness. Those pillars are the Pell Grant, which allows youngsters to go to college irrespective of their wealth or lack of wealth, and at a time when our young people are carrying, as of last week, $1 trillion worth of college debt, that we have made it so they can never get out of. The Pell Grant that helps people get to college and step up into the modern knowledge economy is critically important. The second pillar is Medicare. Before there was Medicare, every American lived in fear of whether they would be able to provide for their basic health care needs in retirement. Every American had that worry. And younger Americans had the worry that their hard-earned savings and their freedom to pursue their dreams would be lost because they would have to care for a parent's health care problem. That burden of worry, that burden of fear has been lifted off all of Americans by the Medicare program. And it is something we are all deeply invested in. We are literally invested in it because of the contributions that Americans have made into the Medicare program over the years. And the third pillar, of course, and perhaps the greatest pillar of all, is Social Security. Social Security that provides a safety net so that Americans can have a dignified retirement. Not a wealthy retirement, not even necessarily a comfortable retirement, but at least not a retirement that is characterized by penury, by poverty, by misery. It is tough in Rhode Island on an average of $14,000 in Social Security income to make ends meet. And I am very glad that for the first time in years, a cost of living adjustment has been announced that will help Rhode Island seniors with that little extra that can make the difference. But the idea that we are now going to attack Social Security as a program is a direct attack on the security, on the well-being, on the freedom, on the comfort of ordinary Americans. Not just those on Social Security, but even those young ones. Think of a young person out of college with a choice in their life whether to take a chance, whether to follow their dream, whether to build that thing in the garage, or whether to go join the corporate world and sign up for its security. Over and over again, Americans have made the choice to follow their dreams. And the American economy has exploded from the value of those dreams. And one of the reasons I believe that Americans are willing to take those chances, to innovate, to move forward, to pursue those dreams, is because they don't have to worry that if they miss, they are condemning themselves to a retirement that is miserable and poverty-stricken. It adds to the freedom of every American to know that Social Security is there, sound and secure, and waiting for them. And sound and secure it is, with nothing done. It is solid until 2037, a quarter of a century from now. And even afterwards, it can pay about 70% of its benefits out into the future, even if we do nothing. Senator Sanders and I have put forward a bill that would make it rock solid out through 75 years, which is as far as the Social Security actuaries project. We can do so. We can particularly do so in a world in which, instead of doing that for Social Security, we are giving billions of dollars in subsidies to the oil and gas companies that are making the biggest profits in the history of humankind. In the first 3 quarters of this year, the major oil companies made over $100 billion in profit, not revenues, profit. And yet they come to the taxpayer for more money from taxpayers' pockets? That makes no sense. We live in a country in which the 400 highest income earners in America, men and women who make over $250 million a year, and God bless them for that success. That's what America's all about. But when it comes to tax time, they pay lower tax rates than a Rhode Island truck driver, because the American tax system has been gimmicked to favor the wealthy. You think we have a progressive tax system in which the wealthy pay more? Well, they do pay more in dollars, but they don't pay more in percent. And in an environment like that, we should be able to find our way to a solid Social Security for 75 years and for thereafter. And I am committed to that fight. I think it's not only important for seniors, I think it's important for every young person in America planning their life, reaching for their dreams. And I think it's important as a symbol to the rest of the world about who we are. I grew up in the foreign service of this country, traveling around to countries you've probably never heard of, where poverty and corruption were the way of life. And even in the little villages and hamlets and slums of those countries, people knew that there was a place that promised something better, that the world didn't have to be the way it was for them. And it lifts the expectations of all of mankind when America stands in this world as an example in a way that tells the world that we take care of one another. Our freedoms are important, our liberties are important, but it's also important that we are a living message of a country that is willing to take care of one another, that is willing to give one another a straight deal. that is not the kind of country where all the money goes to the top, and in many cases, the top siphons it out of the country and leaves the country poor. We as Americans are a living rebuke to that way of being. And we're a living rebuke in a practical sense because we give our poorest children a chance through Pell Grants to reach the same college education that our wealthiest kids get. We're a living rebuke to that because we assure that our seniors, when their medical demands are going to be the strongest, will be taken care of and they don't have to live in fear and poverty. And we assure everyone that when it comes time for retirement, there will be a minimum dignified retirement, and it doesn't matter who you are, everybody gets in on it. Those things to me are important. And I am so glad that you are all fighting for them because they're under attack in Washington from forces that frankly have ulterior motives. When you look at how much money is in the Medicare system, and you look at what the health insurance industry would like to do to get its hands on that money, you know we have a permanent problem protecting Medicare. When you look at the amount of money that is in the Social Security system, more than $2 trillion right now in surplus in the Social Security account, you know that Wall Street would like to get its hands on that money and privatize it and take profit off of it, and that we have a permanent battle to protect Social Security. So I'm in those battles because I think it's the right thing to do. I know you're in those battles because you know it's the right thing to do, and I want to applaud all of you for the constant advocacy and effort that you show through these programs to make America the kind of place that we grew up in and to leave it to our children as the kind of place we can be proud of. Thank you very, very, very much.
In case this gets too slick and professional, we will now pause to take a couple of pictures for our newsletter. So don't leave the room, lock the doors, please. Just kidding, but
We'll be quick.
we do not have time for question and answer, I'm sorry.
Thank you, everybody. Keep it up.
If those of you who have been following closely in the program, we did juggle our schedule a little bit to try to accommodate the senator's schedule. But meanwhile, you know, we have been fighting primarily here in Rhode Island, you know, at the local level, at the State House, on things like Medicaid and at RIPTA to keep affordable transportation and so forth. But so I would now ask, you know, we're going to have the chairman of the board of Senior Agenda Coalition. We'll have some words to say. It's very interesting when I asked him to get on the, we don't disclose his age. I asked him if he could come on the board. Last year, he's a friend of mine. I was on his board at South County Community Action that he headed for 15 years. He said he did not consider himself a senior. So after we showed him the statistics and some other things happened, he has now accepted his seniorhood. But as a matter of fact, they polled people recently, a pretty reputable national poll asked people, what age do you think people are really old? And they said 75. I'm not sure which side he is of that divide, but it's true. I mean, that's one of our problems, you know, as far as organizing is, as people say, you know, or someone called yesterday, well, I don't know, I'm that age, but I'm not really a senior. And I said, well, just look at the topics. So without further ado, someone who has done a lot to support my work, and someone who also has a great background in political organizing and everything else, please welcome the President of the Board of the Senior Agenda Coalition, John Glasheen.
Greetings and welcome to the 4th Annual Senior Agenda Coalition Conference. I'm chairman of the coalition, succeeding Jack Indek, who had provided us with strong leadership for several years and advocacy. In fact, as Bill was suggesting, I consider this sort of my coming out party. While you may note in observation that I've been a senior for a while, depending on the birth date that marks the entry point, 55 or 62 or 65, I've been one for a while but haven't wanted to acknowledge it. In fact, my wife is not here, so she still won't know. But it's clear that events in our state and country need attention, and I wish to be counted to speak up for those of us in advancing age. I believe there is a malaise in our country, well addressed by the occupying groups in New York and Providence and elsewhere. I believe we need to work across generations for fundamental changes. While those groups don't yet have programs, they broadcast a general demand for equity, and seniors may be able to play a role in joining and helping develop focus for that. In any case, we have a very strong focus in today's program developed by Bill Flynn and our collaborators. Our organization is directed to aging in the community. We want to expand opportunities for each of us to grow and not stagnate. Those of you from senior housing, senior centers, senior meals, senior programs, or just from home, we seek to find a way for all of us to work more fully together. And hopefully you will be stimulated by the ideas you get from today's conference. Thank you.
So, as the Senior Agenda Coalition, in the time that I've been director and really prior to that, you know, we have focused on aging in community, which really means protecting, expanding the programs, services, legislation that allows all of us to do what we want to do, and that is stay in our own homes, and if need be, but in a community-based setting rather than in a nursing home. Now, in doing that, and there was a lot of work to be done in Rhode Island, particularly in the area of getting more resources to home and community-based services and shifting Medicaid dollars. We really lag behind virtually the whole country in a serious manner. And thanks to our long-term care consultant, Maureen Maigret, and we've had legislation passed, but progress has been slow. But we have focused on that and related issues. RIPTA, trying to not cut RIPTA, trying to not put too big a copay on paratransit, because it doesn't do you much good to be in your own home if you're isolated and can't get around. And if we live long enough, for most of us, unless we have someone to drive us, you know, we will need that. You know, we will need that help. And trying to also protect the RIPE prescription drug subsidy. This stuff has been like pulling teeth, but we've been successful, and I'll talk about that in noontime. But meanwhile, I think, to be very honest, I think we overlooked the most basic thing of all, and that is you can't age very well in the community if you don't have enough income. And that's the focus of our conference today. I don't know, and particularly the situation of many older women, and we're going to be covering that in our keynote, or we'll be talking about that in her workshop. And that's a whole very difficult situation. Her biography is in the third page of your program, and I'll leave that for you to read. But she is really a national expert and someone particularly who's looked at the situation of older women and the income disparities for women for a number of years. And I know she's a very good person because she's a New Englander, went to Simmons College, and she's from Maine. Her family are from Maine. My grandmother's, my mother's side were all from Maine, and all people, I worked up there, all people from Maine are really good people. And she's headed back up there to God's country. I would be living there now, but my wife, who's Italian-American, it's just too cold. Non-negotiable. So, thank you for your patience. We are very pleased to have her today, and she will be doing a workshop after her keynote. She works at the National Council on Aging. She's head of their economic security, a whole initiative that she'll talk about. Please welcome Ramsey Lane Alwyn.
Thank you, Bill, and good morning. Thank you all for having me today. As the daughter of a lobster fisherman, I feel like I'm at home. It's a pleasure to be with you today to talk about this important and timely issue. As the senator shared, it is a battle right now. And the battle is on, and we need to